The bridge of the Nexus Prime was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Commander Lisa Grant stood at the large window, watching the black space ahead. Her blue skin glowed softly in the ship's lights, and her 4 arms moved quickly across the control panels. Today was the day she had waited for 30 long years. "Commander Grant," called Captain Vex Moradin from his station. His voice carried excitement that he tried to hide. "We have located the last human ship. It's the Terra's Fury, just as our spies told us." Lisa turned to face him. Her large black eyes showed no emotion, but inside she felt relief. The war had gone on too long. Too many good soldiers from 6 different worlds had died fighting these strange creatures called humans. The humans were supposed to be weak, but they had proven to be the most dangerous enemy the Coalition had ever faced. "How many humans are on board?" Lisa asked. "Our sensors show only 1 life sign. It matches the profile of Jake Morrison, the pilot we have been hunting for 3 months. He destroyed 2 of our battle stations last month." Lisa nodded. Jake Morrison was famous among Coalition forces. He had somehow survived when every other human had died. The Coalition had spent massive resources hunting him across the galaxy. Now, finally, they had found him. "Are you certain he cannot escape?" Lisa asked. "Impossible, Commander. We have 50 ships surrounding his position. He has nowhere to run. His ship is damaged and low on fuel. This is the end." Lisa looked back. At the window, in the distance, she could see the small human ship. It looked so tiny compared to their massive fleet. It was hard to believe that something so small had caused so much trouble. The war had started when humans first left their home planet, Earth. They had been exploring space for only a few decades when they met the Coalition. At first, the Coalition tried to make peace. They offered to share technology and knowledge, but humans were different from other species. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and refused to follow Coalition rules. When the Coalition tried to limit human expansion, the humans fought back. What started as small conflicts grew into a full war. The Coalition expected to win quickly. Humans had weaker technology and smaller numbers. But the humans had something the Coalition did not understand. They never gave up. Human tactics were unlike anything the Coalition had seen. They would attack without warning, use their own ships as weapons, and fight even when victory was impossible. They turned asteroids into bombs, used their own colonies as traps, and created weapons from garbage and spare parts. The worst part was how they adapted. Every time the Coalition developed new defenses, humans found ways around them. When the Coalition built stronger shields, humans learned to attack from inside. When the Coalition improved their sensors, humans became better at hiding. Lisa had fought humans for most of her career. She had watched them destroy entire fleets with just a few ships. She had seen them turn defeats into victories through pure determination. But now, finally, it was over. "Commander," Vex said, "Jake Morrison is trying to send a message." "Let me hear it," Lisa ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life. A human voice, speaking in the basic trade language, filled the room. "This is Jake Morrison of the Terra's Fury. I know you can hear me. Coalition forces, you have won. My ship is dying, and I am the last of my people. But I want you to know something before I go." Lisa leaned forward. She had never heard a human speak so calmly before death. "You think you understand us, but you don't. You think this war was about territory or resources. It wasn't. It was about freedom. Every human who died, died free. Every ship you destroyed was crewed by people who chose to fight rather than surrender. You may have won this war, but you will never understand what that means." The message ended. Lisa felt strange. She had expected anger or fear, but the human sounded almost peaceful. "He's moving," Vex reported. "The Terra's Fury is accelerating toward our main battle group. A final attack?" Lisa asked. "It appears so. His weapons are charging." Lisa was not surprised. This was exactly what humans did. They never surrendered, never retreated, never gave up. Even facing impossible odds, they would attack. "All ships, prepare for combat," Lisa ordered. "Do not let him reach the command vessels." The Coalition fleet moved into position. 50 ships against one small, damaged human vessel. The outcome was certain, but Lisa had learned never to underestimate humans. The Terra's fury came at them fast. Jake Morrison was a skilled pilot, dodging between larger ships and returning fire even as his ship took damage. Coalition weapons lit up the darkness, but somehow the small ship kept moving. "He's targeting our fuel ships," Vex shouted. "If he destroys them, we'll be stranded here." "Stop him," Lisa ordered. More Coalition ships joined the fight. The Terra's fury was taking heavy damage now. Parts of the ship were breaking off and fires burned along its hull. But still it kept fighting. "I have a clear shot," reported Captain Zara from the destroyer Swift Strike. "Take it," Lisa said. The Swift Strike's main gun fired. The energy beam struck the Terra's fury directly. The human ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light that lit up the entire area. For a moment the bridge was silent. Then cheers erupted from the Coalition crew. After 30 years of war, it was finally over. "Confirm the kill," Lisa ordered. Vex worked at his station, scanning the debris field. "No life signs detected. The Terra's fury is completely destroyed. Jake Morrison is dead." Lisa felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The last human was gone. The war was over. The Coalition could finally return to peace. "Send word to all Coalition worlds," she commanded. "The human threat has been eliminated. The war is over." As the message was sent, Lisa watched the debris from the human ship drift in space. Small pieces of metal and plastic, all that remained of the last human and his ship. It seemed impossible that something so small could have caused so much trouble, but it was over now. The Coalition had won. The humans were extinct. Peace would return to the galaxy. Lisa did not see the small object that separated from the debris just before the explosion. She did not notice the tiny stealth suit that activated moments after the Terra's fury was destroyed. Her sensors did not detect a single human life sign that drifted silently away from the battle. Hidden by technology the Coalition had never seen. Jake Morrison floated in the darkness, watching the Coalition ships celebrate their victory. His suit kept him alive and invisible. He had ejected at the last second, using a prototype stealth system that masked his heat signature and life signs. The Coalition thought they had won. They thought the last human was dead. They were wrong. Jake smiled inside his helmet as he watched the enemy fleet begin to disperse. Let them celebrate. Let them think they had won. They had no idea what was coming. The war was not over. It was just beginning. As the Coalition ships jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of their victory to 6 worlds, Jake Morrison drifted alone in the darkness. He was hurt, tired, and far from any friendly port. But he was alive and he was human. That was enough. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were much harder to kill than anyone imagined. The Coalition's victory celebration would be short-lived. Jake Morrison had work to do. 3 months had passed since the destruction of the Terra's fury. The Coalition worlds were celebrating like never before. Streets were filled with parades, and leaders gave speeches about the new age of peace that would begin now that the human threat was gone. Lisa Grant stood in her new office on the Coalition capital world of Nexus Prime. The room was large and filled with awards and medals from her long military career. Through the window, she could see the city below, where people walked freely without fear. For the first time in 30 years, she had been promoted to Supreme Admiral, the highest military rank in the Coalition. Her job now was to oversee the transition from war to peace. Military ships were being converted to cargo vessels. Weapons factories were being changed to make civilian goods. Soldiers were returning to their families. Lisa should have felt happy, but something bothered her. She could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. "Admiral Grant," called her assistant, a young officer named Kex. "The transport is ready to take you to the Kepler-7 research station." Lisa nodded and gathered her files. Today she would inspect the Coalition's newest research facility. It was built on the moon of Kepler-7, far from any populated worlds. The facility was working on projects that would help rebuild the galaxy after the war. The journey to Kepler-7 took 6 hours. Lisa spent the time reading reports about the facility. It was impressive. The station had laboratories for studying new technologies, workshops for building advanced equipment, and living quarters for over 300 researchers. When Lisa arrived at the station, she was greeted by Dr. Mel Vasquez. The facility director, Dr. Vasquez, was a Xanthari with green skin and long tentacles instead of arms. She was known throughout the coalition as one of their best scientists. "Welcome to Kepler-7, Admiral Grant," Dr. Vasquez said as they walked through the station's corridors. "We are honored to have you visit our facility." The station was clean and well organized. Scientists worked quietly in their laboratories, and everything seemed to be running smoothly. But as they walked, Lisa noticed small things that bothered her. In one laboratory, a computer screen flickered in a strange pattern. In another room, a piece of equipment was making an unusual noise. These were tiny problems, but they reminded Lisa of something she had seen before during the war. "Dr. Vasquez," Lisa said, "have you had any equipment failures recently?" "Nothing major, Admiral. Just small problems that happen in any facility. A few computers have needed repairs, and some of our scanning equipment has been acting strangely. But our technicians have everything under control." Lisa nodded, but her concern grew. The pattern of failures was familiar. During the war, human saboteurs had caused similar problems in coalition facilities. The failures always seemed random and unimportant, but they were actually carefully planned to cause maximum disruption. They continued the tour, visiting the main laboratory where the station's most important project was being developed. Dr. Vasquez led Lisa to a large room filled with complex machinery. "This is our pride and joy," Dr. Vasquez explained. "We call it the Genesis Wave. It's a terraforming device that can change the environment of entire planets. We plan to use it to repair the damage caused by the war." Lisa studied the massive machine. It was beautiful in its complexity, with thousands of components working together. "How does it work?" "The Genesis Wave sends out energy pulses that can alter the atmosphere and surface of a planet. We can turn a dead world into a garden paradise or change a hostile environment into something suitable for our people. It will allow us to expand into new territories and rebuild what was lost." Lisa was impressed, but something about the machine made her uncomfortable. "Have you tested it yet?" "We're preparing for the first test next month. We plan to use it on one of the abandoned human worlds. Earth would be perfect for our first demonstration." As they left the laboratory, Lisa noticed more small problems. A door that should have been locked was slightly open. A security camera was pointed in the wrong direction. A maintenance panel had been recently removed and replaced. Each problem was minor, but together they formed a pattern. Lisa had seen this pattern before. It was the signature of human sabotage, but that was impossible. All the humans were dead. Jake Morrison had been the last one, and Lisa had watched his ship explode. There were no humans left in the galaxy. During the flight back to Nexus Prime, Lisa reviewed the security footage from the Kepler-7 station. Hours of recordings showed nothing unusual. Scientists worked at their stations, technicians repaired equipment, and security guards patrolled the corridors. Everything looked normal, but Lisa had learned to look for things that were not there. She noticed that some cameras had brief periods where they showed nothing. A few seconds here, a minute there. The gaps were so short that most people would not notice them. Lisa also noticed that the equipment failures happened during shift changes, when fewer people were watching. The problems always occurred in areas that were temporarily empty. Someone was moving through the station without being detected. Someone who knew how to avoid cameras and security sensors. Someone who understood coalition technology well enough to cause just the right amount of damage. Back in her office, Lisa pulled up files from the war. She compared the recent problems at Kepler-7 with sabotage incidents from the past. The patterns were identical. A human was alive and active in coalition space. Lisa called a meeting with her senior staff. The room was filled with officers from different coalition worlds. They all looked relaxed and happy, still celebrating the end of the war. "I believe we have a problem," Lisa began. I think a human survived the destruction of the Terra's fury. The room erupted in laughter. Captain Vex Moradin, now serving as Lisa's second-in-command, spoke for the group. Admiral, with respect, that's impossible. We confirmed Jake Morrison's death ourselves. We scanned the debris field thoroughly. There were no survivors. Then explain the sabotage at Kepler 7, Lisa said. She showed them the evidence she had gathered. The equipment failures, the security gaps, the familiar patterns. The officers studied the data, but they were not convinced. General Tox Aldrin, a veteran of many battles, shook his head. These are just normal problems that happen in any facility. You're seeing patterns because you want to see them. The war is over, Admiral. The humans are extinct. Lisa felt frustrated. She knew she was right, but she could not prove it. The evidence was too subtle, too carefully hidden. A human had indeed survived, but he was smart enough to cover his tracks. I want increased security at all Coalition facilities, Lisa ordered. Double the patrols, upgrade the sensors, and review all security footage personally. The officers agreed, but Lisa could see they thought she was being paranoid. They believed the war was over and the human threat was gone forever. As the meeting ended, Lisa remained in her office staring at the data on her screen. Somewhere in Coalition space, a human was moving freely. He had survived the destruction of his ship, evaded their sensors, and was now sabotaging their facilities. But why? What was he planning? Lisa thought about the Genesis Wave project. If a human wanted to cause maximum damage to the Coalition, that machine would be the perfect target. It represented the Coalition's hope for the future, their plan to rebuild and expand. She made a decision. She would personally oversee the security for the Genesis Wave project. She would catch this human, whoever he was, and finish what they had started 3 months ago. Lisa did not know that at that very moment, Jake Morrison was floating in the abandoned mining sections of Station Omega 7, just 2 sectors away from Nexus Prime. He had been living there for weeks, using the station's forgotten maintenance tunnels to move unseen. Jake had spent the months since his supposed death learning everything he could about the Coalition. He had hacked their computer networks, studied their plans, and discovered their greatest weakness. The Coalition thought they had won. They thought the war was over. They had become careless and overconfident. Jake smiled as he worked on his computer, planning his next move. The Coalition's celebration would soon turn to fear. They would learn that humans were much harder to kill than they imagined. The real war was just beginning. Lisa Grant could not sleep. For 2 weeks, she had been thinking about the problems at Kepler 7 Research Station. Every night she lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if a human was really alive somewhere in Coalition space. Her fellow officers thought she was going crazy. They said the war was over and she needed to accept it. But Lisa knew what she had seen. The pattern of sabotage was too familiar to ignore. She got up from her bed and walked to her office. The building was quiet at night, with only a few security guards walking the halls. Lisa turned on her computer and began reviewing files from the war. She pulled up every report of human sabotage from the past 30 years. The humans had a specific way of causing damage. They never destroyed everything at once. Instead, they made small problems that would grow bigger over time. A computer virus that would activate weeks later. A structural weakness that would cause a building to collapse during the next storm. Lisa compared these old reports to the recent problems at Kepler 7. The match was perfect. A human was definitely alive and working against the Coalition. The next morning, Lisa called Dr. Vasquez at the research station. Doctor, I need you to accelerate the Genesis Wave project. How soon can you be ready for the first test? Dr. Vasquez sounded surprised. Admiral, we plan to spend another month preparing. Rushing the project could be dangerous. I understand the risks, but I need that test to happen as soon as possible. Can you be ready in 1 week? If we work around the clock, yes? But May. I ask why the hurry? Lisa hesitated. She could not tell Dr. Vasquez about her suspicions without proof. The Coalition Council wants to demonstrate our new peacetime capabilities. The Genesis wave will show the galaxy that we are moving forward, not just celebrating the past. Dr. Vasquez agreed to speed up the project. Lisa knew she was taking a risk, but she had to force the hidden human to make a move. If he was planning to sabotage the Genesis wave, he would have to act quickly now. Lisa also increased security around all Coalition facilities. She ordered extra patrols, installed new sensors, and required all personnel to carry identity cards at all times. Her officers complained that she was being paranoid, but Lisa did not care. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison watched the increased security from his hiding place in the abandoned mining station. He had been monitoring Coalition communications for weeks, learning about their plans and preparations. The Genesis Wave project was exactly what Jake had been looking for. The Coalition planned to use it to remake human worlds for their own use. They wanted to erase every trace of humanity from the galaxy. Jake could not let that happen. He had spent months studying the Genesis Wave design through hacked computer networks. The machine was incredibly powerful, capable of changing entire planets. But like all complex systems, it had weaknesses. The Coalition engineers had built the Genesis Wave to be controlled by a central computer system. This system received commands from the research station and sent them to the machine. If Jake could get access to that computer, he could turn the Coalition's own weapon against them, but he needed to be physically present at the research station. To do it, the computer system was protected by security measures that could only be bypassed from the inside. Jake began planning his infiltration of Kepler-7. He studied the station's layout, guard schedules, and security protocols. He identified the best entry points and escape routes. Most importantly, he figured out how to reach the Genesis Wave control room without being detected. The plan was dangerous. If he was caught, the Coalition would execute him immediately. But Jake had no choice. The Genesis Wave represented everything the Coalition wanted to do to humanity. They wanted to erase human civilization and replace it with their own. Jake would not let them succeed. As the week passed, Dr. Vasquez and her team worked frantically to prepare the Genesis Wave for its first test. They ran system checks, calibrated the targeting computers, and loaded the terraforming programs. The machine hummed with power as it prepared to reshape its first world. Lisa arrived at Kepler-7 2 days before the test. She brought extra security forces and installed additional monitoring equipment. If a human was going to make a move, it would happen here. She walked through the station, checking every room and corridor. Everything looked normal, but Lisa felt watched. She had the strange feeling that someone was observing her, learning her movements and habits. "Admiral," Dr. Vasquez said as they stood in the Genesis Wave control room, "we're ready for the test. The target is Earth, as you requested. The machine will fire tomorrow at noon." Lisa nodded. Earth was the perfect target for the first test. The planet had been abandoned since the war began, and reshaping it would send a message to the galaxy that the Coalition was ready to expand into former human territory, but Lisa also knew that if a human was going to act, Earth would be the trigger. No human could watch their homeworld be destroyed without fighting back. That night, Lisa could not sleep again. She walked the station corridors, checking on security teams and monitoring equipment. The guards were alert and professional, but Lisa still felt uneasy. At 3 a.m, she decided to check the Genesis Wave control room one more time. The room was empty except for the night shift technician, who was reading a book at his desk. "Everything normal?" Lisa asked. The technician looked up and smiled. "All systems are running perfectly, Admiral. The machine is ready for tomorrow's test." Lisa studied the control panels. Hundreds of lights blinked in complex patterns, showing the status of different systems. Everything looked correct, but Lisa had learned to trust her instincts. "Have you noticed anything unusual? Any strange sounds or unexpected readings?" The technician shook his head. "Nothing at all. The Genesis Wave is working exactly as designed." Lisa left the control room and continued her patrol. She walked through the laboratories, storage areas, and living quarters. The station was quiet, with most people sleeping in preparation for tomorrow's historic test, But as Lisa walked, she noticed small things that bothered her. A door that should have been locked was slightly open. A ventilation grate had been moved and replaced. Someone had been moving through the station without being detected. Jake Morrison was already inside. He had entered the station 3 hours earlier, using a maintenance tunnel that connected to the abandoned mining facility where he had been hiding. The tunnel was old and forgotten, not shown on any current maps. Jake moved through the station like a ghost, avoiding cameras and guards. He had studied the building's layout for weeks and knew every blind spot and hidden passage. His destination was the Genesis Wave control room, but he could not go there directly. First, he needed to access the station's main computer system and plant his virus. The virus was Jake's masterpiece. He had spent months creating it, using knowledge gained from 30 years of war against the Coalition. The virus was designed to hide in the Genesis Wave's control systems, waiting for the right moment to activate. When the Genesis Wave fired tomorrow, the virus would take control of the machine. Instead of terraforming Earth for the Coalition, it would send a signal to every human settlement in the galaxy. Jake had discovered something the Coalition did not know. Humans were not extinct. Hidden colonies existed on dozens of worlds, their people sleeping in deep freeze chambers, waiting for the right moment to wake up. The Genesis Wave signal would wake them all. Jake reached the main computer room and began his work. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, passing security systems and planting his virus deep in the machine's programming. As he worked, Jake thought about tomorrow. The Coalition believed they were celebrating the final victory over humanity. Instead, they would witness humanity's return. The galaxy was about to change forever. The morning of the Genesis Wave test arrived with clear skies on Kepler 7. Lisa Grant stood in the observation deck of the research station, watching the massive weapon prepare for its first firing. The machine was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with energy crackling between its metal towers. Dr. Vasquez approached her with a tablet showing the final system checks. "Admiral, we are ready to begin. All systems are showing green. The target coordinates for Earth are locked in." Lisa nodded, but her stomach felt tight with worry. She had spent the entire night searching the station for signs of the human she was sure was hiding somewhere inside. Her security teams had found nothing, but Lisa's instincts told her something was wrong. "How long until we fire?" Lisa asked. 30 minutes. The Coalition Council will be watching from their ships in orbit. This test will be broadcast to all 6 worlds. Lisa looked through the observation window at the Coalition fleet positioned safely away from the station. 50 ships waited to witness the destruction of Earth and the beginning of a new age. Every important leader in the Coalition was watching. "Dr. Vasquez, I want you to run one more complete system check. Every circuit, every program, every connection." Dr. Vasquez looked confused. "Admiral, we have already checked everything 3 times. The machine is working perfectly." "Check it again," Lisa ordered. "I have a feeling something is not right." As Dr. Vasquez hurried away to run the additional checks, Lisa walked through the station one more time. She checked every room, every corridor, every storage closet. Her security teams were positioned throughout the building, but Lisa still felt like she was being watched. In the Genesis Wave control room, technicians worked at their stations, preparing for the historic moment. Banks of computers hummed quietly, processing the complex calculations needed to reshape an entire planet. Warning lights flashed as the machine charged its massive energy collectors. Lisa studied the control panels, looking for anything unusual. The displays showed normal readings, but she noticed that some of the numbers were changing in odd patterns. The variations were tiny, but they reminded her of the subtle signs she had seen before. "Technician Ross," Lisa called to the man operating the main console. "Have you noticed any unusual behavior in the computer systems?" Ross looked up from his work. "Nothing major, Admiral. A few minor glitches in the data processing, but well within normal parameters. The machine is ready to fire." Lisa frowned. Minor glitches were exactly what she would expect if someone had planted a virus in the system. But there was no time to investigate further. The test was scheduled to begin in 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison crouched in the maintenance tunnels beneath the control room. He had spent the night moving through the station's hidden passages, avoiding cameras and guards. His virus was already planted in the Genesis Wave's computer systems, waiting for the right moment to activate, but Jake's plan required him to be in the control room when the machine fired. He needed to manually trigger the final sequence that would turn the Coalition's weapon against them. It was a suicide mission, but Jake accepted that his life was a small price to pay for humanity's survival. Jake checked his watch. 10 minutes until the test began. He moved through the tunnels toward the control room, carrying a small device that would help him access the computer systems. If everything went according to plan, the Coalition's celebration would become their worst nightmare. Back in the control room, Lisa watched the final preparations. The technicians worked calmly, unaware that their historic moment was about to become a disaster. The Genesis Wave hummed with power as its energy levels reached maximum capacity. 5 minutes until firing, Dr. Vasquez announced over the station's communication system. All personnel to safe positions. Lisa remained in the control room, watching the displays. Something was definitely wrong, but she could not figure out what. The machine appeared to be working perfectly, but her instincts screamed that danger was approaching. "Admiral," Technician Ross said, "we're getting some strange readings from the deep system monitors. It looks like there might be an unauthorized access attempt." Lisa's blood ran cold. "Show me," Ross pointed to a screen showing the station's computer network. Deep in the system, someone was moving through the Genesis Wave's control programs. The intruder was skilled, avoiding most of the security measures but leaving tiny traces of his presence. "Lock down the system," Lisa ordered. "Stop the test." "We have been compromised." But it was too late. The Genesis Wave had already begun its firing sequence. The machine's energy collectors were fully charged and the targeting systems were locked. Onto Earth, the weapon could not be stopped without risking a catastrophic explosion that would destroy the entire station. 2 minutes to firing, Dr. Vasquez announced. Lisa grabbed the communication device. "All security teams to the control room immediately. We have an intruder." But as she spoke, the lights in the control room flickered and went out. Emergency power activated, bathing everything in red light. The Genesis Wave continued its firing sequence, but the control systems were no longer responding to commands. Jake Morrison dropped through a ceiling panel into the control room. He had disabled the lights and activated his virus simultaneously. The Coalition technicians stared at him in shock, unable to believe that a human was standing in their most secure facility. "Hello, everyone," Jake said calmly. "I'm Jake Morrison, and I'm here to deliver a message." Lisa drew her weapon, but Jake was already moving. He dove behind a bank of computers as security guards rushed into the room. Energy blasts filled the air, but Jake had positioned himself perfectly to avoid them. "You're supposed to be dead," Lisa shouted over the sound of weapon fire. "Death is just another word for tactical advantage," Jake replied. "You should have learned that by now." The Genesis Wave's firing sequence continued automatically. 1 minute until the weapon discharged its terraforming energy at Earth. Jake worked frantically at a computer terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he activated the final part of his plan. "What are you doing?" Lisa demanded. "Giving humanity a wake-up call," Jake said. "Did you really think we would put all our eggs in one basket? Humans have been preparing for this day for 30 years. Lisa's security team surrounded Jake's position, but he continued working. The virus was spreading through the Genesis Wave's systems, changing targeting coordinates and modifying the terraforming programs. 30 seconds to firing, Dr. Vasquez announced, her voice shaking. "You cannot stop the machine," Lisa said. "Even if you damage the controls, the weapon will still fire." Jake looked up from the computer terminal and smiled. "I'm not trying to stop it, I'm trying to redirect it." A Genesis Wave fired. A massive pulse of energy erupted from the machine, racing across space toward its target. But instead of heading for Earth, the pulse split into dozens of smaller beams that spread throughout the galaxy. Jake's virus had reprogrammed the weapon to target every world where Humans had hidden colonies. Lisa watched in horror as the display screens showed the energy pulses reaching their destinations. But instead of destroying the human settlements, the modified Genesis wave was sending a different signal. It was a wake-up call, transmitted on frequencies that only human equipment could receive. "What have you done?" Lisa whispered. Jake stood up, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. "I've given my people a chance to come home. The Genesis wave was designed to reshape worlds, but I've changed it to reshape the galaxy. Every human colony that has been sleeping for decades is now waking up." The screens in the control room began showing incoming signals from across the galaxy. Human settlements that had been hidden for years were suddenly active, their residents emerging from deep freeze chambers and underground bunkers. "That's impossible," Dr. Vasquez said. "Our intelligence reports confirm that all humans were extinct." "Your intelligence was wrong," Jake replied. "We learned a long time ago that the best way to survive is to make your enemies think you're already dead. While you were hunting me, thousands of my people were sleeping safely and hidden. Colonies waiting for the right moment to return." Lisa stared at the displays showing human activity throughout Coalition space. Ships were launching from hidden bases. Communication networks were coming online. Military installations that had been thought destroyed were revealing themselves to be operational. "How many?" Lisa asked quietly. "Enough," Jake said. "Enough to take back what was ours. Enough to show the galaxy that humans don't stay down when you knock them down." The Genesis wave shut down automatically after firing. Its energy collectors empty. But the damage was done. The Coalition's weapon had been turned against them, and humanity was returning to the galaxy in greater numbers than anyone had imagined. Jake looked at Lisa with a mixture of respect and determination. "The war isn't over, Admiral. It's just beginning again." The control room of the Kepler 7 research station was silent except for the steady beeping of computers. Lisa Grant stared at the screens showing human activity across the galaxy. Red dots appeared on the star map as human colonies came online. One by one. There were hundreds of them. Jake Morrison stood calmly in the center of the room, surrounded by Coalition security guards. His hands were raised, but his face showed no fear. He had accomplished what he came to do. "This is impossible," Dr. Vasquez whispered, looking at the data streaming in from across space. "Our scouts surveyed all these worlds. They were empty." "Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see," Jake replied. "Humans are good at hiding. We've had 30 years to practice." Lisa watched as more signals appeared on the display. The humans were not just waking up from their hidden colonies. They were launching ships, activating communication networks, and revealing military installations that the Coalition had thought were destroyed decades ago. "Admiral Grant?" came a voice over the communication system. It was Captain Vex from the flagship Nexus Prime. "We're receiving signals from human forces throughout Coalition space. They're demanding to speak with you directly." Lisa looked at Jake. "What do they want?" "To talk," Jake said simply. "The same thing humans have wanted for 30 years. But this time, you're going to listen." Lisa activated the main communication screen. The face that appeared was that of an older human woman with gray hair and determined eyes. Behind her, Lisa could see what looked like the bridge of a military ship. "I am Captain Mary Davis of the Human Colonial Fleet," the woman said. "I speak for the surviving human population in this galaxy. We wish to negotiate an end to this war." Lisa felt dizzy. The Coalition had celebrated the extinction of humanity just months ago. Now she was looking at proof that not only had humans survived, but they had been organizing and preparing for this moment. "How many ships do you have?" Lisa asked. "Enough," Captain Davis replied. "We have been building and hiding our fleet for decades while you thought we were extinct. Every attack you made on our colonies, every victory you celebrated, was part of our plan to make you overconfident." "You used your own people as bait," Lisa said, horrified. "We used volunteers," Jake corrected. Every human who fought in the open war knew they were buying time for the hidden colonies to prepare. They died so that humanity could survive. The Screens in the control room began showing images from across Coalition space. Human ships were appearing near major Coalition worlds, not attacking but simply making their presence known. The message was clear: humans were back and they were everywhere. "What are your terms?" Lisa asked Captain Davis. "First, immediate ceasefire between all Coalition and human forces. Second, recognition of human rights to exist in this galaxy. Third, reparations for the damage caused by 30 years of attempted genocide." Lisa's mind raced. The Coalition leadership would never agree to these terms willingly. But looking at the screens showing human forces throughout their territory, she realized they might not have a choice. "And if we refuse?" Lisa asked. Captain Davis' expression hardened. "Then we finish what you started. But this time humans won't be fighting for survival. We'll be fighting for justice." Another voice came over the communication system. It was General Tox Aldrin from the Coalition Council. "Admiral Grant, do not negotiate with these terrorists." "The Coalition does not surrender to anyone," Jake laughed. "Terrorists? You spent 30 years trying to wipe out our entire species. What does that make you?" "It makes us the victors," General Aldrin replied. "Or it did until today." "But numbers mean nothing. We still have superior technology and firepower." "Do you?" Jake asked. He gestured to the screens around the room. "Take a closer look at your superior technology." Lisa studied the displays more carefully. The Genesis wave was still connected to Coalition computer networks throughout the galaxy, but now, instead of being controlled from Kepler-7, it was receiving commands from human sources. "The virus you planted," Lisa said to Jake. "It's not just in the Genesis wave." "That's right," Jake confirmed. "For months, I've been introducing code into Coalition systems. Every computer network, every weapon system, every ship's navigation computer has been infected." The virus was designed to activate when the Genesis wave fired. As if to demonstrate his point, the lights in the control room flickered again. All around the station, Coalition equipment began showing errors and malfunctions. The same thing was happening throughout Coalition space. "You're bluffing," General Aldrin said. "Our security systems would have detected such a widespread intrusion." "Your security systems were designed to stop external attacks," Jake replied. "But I've been working from the inside for months. Every Coalition facility I visited, every computer I accessed, every system I repaired while pretending to cause minor sabotage, I was actually planting pieces of my virus." Lisa realized the full scope of what Jake had accomplished. While the Coalition had been hunting him as a lone terrorist, he had been systematically infiltrating their entire technology infrastructure. The Genesis wave test had been the trigger that activated his master plan. "Captain Davis," Lisa said, turning back to the communication screen. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A new beginning," the human captain replied. "The war ends today. Coalition forces withdraw from all former human territories. In exchange, we will repair the damage to your computer systems and prevent further sabotage." "And if we agree to this, you'll simply leave us alone?" Lisa asked. "Not leave you alone," Jake said. "Coexist. The galaxy is big enough for both humans and the Coalition. But the days of one species dominating all the others are over." General Aldrin's voice crackled over the communication system. "This is unacceptable. The Coalition Council will never agree to these terms." "Then the Coalition Council will find their ships floating dead in space," Captain Davis said calmly. "Jake's virus can do more than cause computer errors. It can shut down life support, disable engines, and open airlocks. We prefer negotiation, but we're prepared for other options." Lisa looked around the control room. Her security teams were still pointing weapons at Jake, but she could see uncertainty in their eyes. The situation had changed completely in the space of an hour. The Coalition had gone from celebrating victory to facing the possibility of total defeat. "Admiral," Captain Davis continued, "you have 1 hour to convince your council to accept our terms. After that, we start demonstrating the full capabilities of Jake's virus." The communication screen went dark. Lisa was left staring at displays showing human forces throughout Coalition space. Ships, bases, and colonies that had been hidden for decades were now revealing themselves. How did you do it? Lisa asked Jake. How did you hide so many people for so long? The same way humans have always survived, Jake replied. We adapted, we learned, and we never gave up. Lisa thought about the past 30 years of war. The Coalition had seen human determination as stubbornness, human creativity as chaos, and human resilience as mere luck. They had never understood that these traits made humans incredibly dangerous enemies. You could have revealed yourselves years ago, Lisa said. Why wait until now? Because we needed to be sure we could win, Jake explained. Not just survive, but actually win. We had to wait until you were overconfident, until you thought the war was over and relaxed your guard. Lisa's communication device buzzed with calls from Coalition leaders across the galaxy. They were panicking as their systems began failing and human forces appeared in their territories. The carefully planned celebration of human extinction had become a nightmare of human resurrection. 1 hour, Lisa said quietly. 1 hour. Jake agreed. Lisa looked out the observation window at the Genesis wave, the machine that was supposed to secure Coalition dominance had instead become the instrument of human return. She had to admire the elegance of Jake's plan. Even as she feared its consequences, the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity was back, stronger and smarter than ever. The war was over, but the peace that followed would be on human terms. Jake Morrison smiled as he watched Coalition ships scrambling to respond to the new reality. The last human was no longer alone. His people were home,